Integer addition and subtraction by Maggie, Viv, Christina, Bree, and me. So the explaining process of integers are going to help you guys understand what an integer is. So an integer is a whole number that is not a fractional number, meaning this could be a whole number, and that would either be a negative, a zero, or positive. And the picture shown on the slide is what a negative integer would be, the zero obviously, and what a positive integer would be. So also more for the explaining process, we'll explain how an integer can be used in multiple ways in a mathematical equation. So you can either add or subtract integers, and that usually involves being put on a number line. And you can also multiply or divide integer numbers, and usually you can use integer chips to help visually see how the problem is being explained. And if you're adding or subtracting or even multiplication or division, integer chips are usually your best option if you're more of a hands-on learner, and especially if you visually need to see what's being done in front of you.
So for our next slide, we thought a group work warm-up would work. And so this first picture is just showing which way negative numbers fit on the number line and which way positive numbers fit. So from this image, you would have students write down two integers and have them draw them as chips. So for example, if a student chose the number 2 and 3, they would draw 2 circles with the positive indicating the positive number 2 and 3 circles with the positive indicating the number 3. The second step of this warm-up would be having students work in pairs of 2 to solve their equations with the numbers that they chose, and to know if they have 2 positives, it'll equal a positive, or if they have 2 negatives, it'll equal a negative. And then a little know before you go, just check from what we've talked about in our first day, is to know what an integer is and know how to determine what makes a number positive or negative based on where it is on the number line. And then next is to be able to understand what the worksheet's asking them to do, which is just a visual aid basically of saying how many more are there of a certain type, just to see if students can understand that on their first day.
The second day will mainly be focusing on adding and subtracting integers on the number line. So you could first do this by explaining the process of an integer on the number line by having students use example problems. You can also have students follow along with you while you're explaining the process, because this makes it easier for the students to comprehend everything if it's going by step. And if you can continue to give examples, like you can have each group solve the problems, and they can work better as a team in that way. And then after 20 minutes, you can have students share out the answers to the class. So for example, this worksheet right here is basically the first steps of them getting familiar with addition and subtraction on the number line. So the more you work on that, the easier the students will be able to comprehend that. Another way you could show students how to do the number line is if you do models, because they gain a better understanding from that. So they can use themselves as a model for the number line. So for example, you can have a student start at 0 and walk 3 steps forward, then 1 step back. Then that student will end up on the second of the number 2 on the number line. So basically have students go over this and have little problems given to them so they can visually see this. If they are struggling with it, like writing it down, they can visually do it themselves. And just a really good representative model for that. And then next you can give students partner worksheets so they can be paired up into partners to find solutions for adding and subtracting integer problems. So one partner will explain how to solve the problem while the other one listens, and they'll just continue to alternate throughout the problems. And once everyone is completed, you'll be able to review the answers, and having the set partners, it'll be able to gain a better understanding of explaining to one another. So for that worksheet, they can just do 2 separately and then work together as a class. And then finally, like for day 1, we're going to do the know before you go. So once the class is finished with all the partner worksheets, they have to do an exit ticket. So you'll give them 2 sections. Section A will be 7 problems about the integer number lines. And then section B will just be a reflection question, asking them how they feel about the new topic and seeing if they understand it even by just writing it down or using the models. So this helps students be able to learn how to solve like new problems and be able to understand it thoroughly, and we understand that they understand it. So being able just to have them reflect on that will be good for their comprehension.
So for the next one, we're doing positive and negative problems using the integer chips. And what we're going to do is explain the positive and negative integers. Positive means to add and negative means to take away using the integer chips. So in the picture, it shows red, which would be the -7 integer chips. And then the yellow is going to be the -3. And basically you would add those and you'd get -10. And then in the other example, there's 6 of the chips, which is the yellow ones, which are positive. And then they'll have the -4, which is red. And then you'll get 2 from those. Then we'll use examples and explain the process to the students. After explaining, we'll ask them if they have any questions or confusions. If anyone has any questions or doesn't understand it, then we would ask someone to volunteer to do an example problem to make sure that everybody understands it. Then we'll do a warm-up. On the side, this is a warm-up worksheet that we would do. The students will work on it individually for about 10 to 15 minutes. After that time is up, they will discuss their answers with their partners, and then we'll all discuss it as a class to see if everyone understands it. If they do, then we'll start on the group activity next.
This will be the group worksheet. Students will work in their groups to finish an adding integer worksheet using counters. They will all work together to complete the worksheet as a group. They will then share their work with other groups and rotate 3 times, sharing the answers with different groups. And then we have another know before you go. To finish up class, students will do this worksheet as their exit ticket. Every student will work on this by themselves. Once they are finished, they will bring it up to you so you can check for the correct answers. If any answers are incorrect, you'll send them back to their desk and fix it. You can give them guidance if needed.
At the end of the 3 days, students will be given an end of the lesson quiz. Students will have 25 to 30 minutes to complete the quiz.
The quiz will contain all methods and strategies that they have been learning for the past 3 days. So for example, they must answer the question or answer the problems with either an integer number line or integer chips. So for example, for number 1, it would be 3 plus -8. So they could write down the number line and they can jump 3 and go back 8 steps. So that kind of just gives an example of what they've learned in the past 3 days and how they can apply it to the test and future problems. If they're not comfortable with the integer number line and they feel that the integer chips are better for them, then they could use that same problem. So 3 plus -8, they can just have 3 positive integer chips and 8 negative, and they can solve it using that way. Both integer chips and separate piece of papers will be placed on their desk for them to use, whether it's them using the integer chips while taking the test, or them using the separate piece of paper writing out the number lines, or there's even an option for them to go to a space in the classroom for them to actually reenact the number lines. So for example, taking 3 steps forward and 8 steps back, kind of figuring out what place they land on the number line.
Once all the students are completed with the quiz, they will exchange their quiz for the partner, and the whole class will review the answers. If the student does not pass the test with a 70 or higher, they can retake the quiz another day.